Wishmaster 3 Beyond the Gates of Hell is the one movie in the franchise that I've heard literally nothing but bad things about. The film was released 2 years after the previous movie and was also released direct-to-video. This is the first film in the series to not have Andrew DeVoff in it as the Djinn. The new Djinn is probably the worst thing about the film. The guy who plays him is terrible, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's start with the plot of the movie. The movie is set entirely at a university. A student known as Diana is struggling to cope with the memory of losing her parents when she was a kid. It literally serves no purpose to the plot, but it starts that way. She is invited to a museum by a professor to see a special exhibit that the professor has gotten to see before anyone else for some reason. Diana goes there and starts to look at the exhibit and finds the Djinn stone. Of course, in real life, an unattended person wouldn't be allowed to go and see something like this in a museum, especially since it's a priceless artifact and she could break it. Diana wakes the Djinn, but it doesn't come out until the professor arrives and Diana leaves. The Djinn kills the professor and takes on his identity. The Djinn then spends almost 20 minutes trying to find Diana. Finally, when he does, she wishes for the spirit of Saint Michael to come down and help her. Saint Michael then takes over the body of her boyfriend. Of course, this is pretty much entirely pointless because the only thing he does is bring her back to life when she dies at the end of the movie. The plot is incredibly loose, which is weird because the film is incredibly slow. You'd think more would happen if they're going at the pace that they're going at. The film is really slow. Almost nothing happens in the film and it literally serves no point. There are things in the film that are better than the previous movie, but there are things that are worse than it too. The CGI effects are much better and they look like what you'd expect to see in an early episode of Smallville. They aren't great, but for what they are a massive improvement over both of the previous movies. Sadly, there isn't much gore in the film at all because it's an incredibly slow movie. There's an extremely small body count and the death scenes are nowhere near as inventive as the previous two movies. The acting is probably the best part of the film. Everyone actually gives a slightly good performance. They aren't perfect and none of them look entirely interested, but for what I expected, they were better than they should have been. Unlike the previous two movies, when the Djinn is in his human form, he's played by a different actor. The actor who plays his human form is actually pretty good. He's played by Sean Connery's son, Jason. Although he isn't as good as Sean Connery, he's still pretty good in the movie. The film is actually surprisingly scary at times. The chase scenes were actually kind of creepy. Although they weren't very scary, they were definitely scarier than anything in the previous two movies. I honestly don't hate Wishmaster 3. I understand why people do hate it, but honestly I just didn't hate it. It's slow and boring at times, but I still enjoyed watching it. It's better than I expected it to be, but because barely anything happens, I can't really think of much else to say about the film. I give Wishmaster 3 Beyond the Gates of Hell a 6.5 out of 10.